Yeah.
If a song you recorded at a certain BPM,
Yeah.
can you make a song different, slower or faster with that same vocal?
Oh yes, you can. You can, but you'll have to obviously change the tempo of the vocal. You'll have to stretch the vocal. Okay, so let's see if I can get some. Okay, so we want to do vocals and how to process them. I've got lots of projects, but I want to do one that I think will just be the best for you. So is it for singing vocals or rap vocals or both? Both. Okay. Okay, let me do the song with Scotty G. Because he does some. Because he does rapping and singing, so I think that's cool. You can sort of touch on both of them, you know? Okay, projects. Scotty. Oh shit. Scotty. I think we can do all them. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. Okay, so this is the complete thing. So I'm just pressing Control and N, which should have made a new. Yeah. So I can mess with this project and it won't really matter. Okay.
The people pleaser, it pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need you, they need you. Don't give a fuck about them neither, you neither.
Okay, so there's the vocal. That's already processed and everything. So I'm gonna pull it up before anything was done to it. So this is 20_2. So it should be this one. Yeah. Okay.
Followers.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it in a dry channel. So this is now dry vocal.
Followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been a people pleaser, a pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need you, they need you. Don't give a fuck about them neither, you neither.
Okay, so this is the raw recording. Like he was in there, he recorded. That's what I've got. Bam. It's.
Tell me, and up on my squad though.
Yeah. So he's a good rapper, and he has good voice control. Like you can see the volume. There's a pretty consistent volume, right? So the compression usually like sorts that out, but so that's pretty good. But anyway, yeah.
All my followers are leaders.
Okay, so now I'm basically gonna show you what I call an effects chain. So it's like a chain of effects that I'm gonna put on the vocal to make it sound better, more crisp, have some like echo effects on it and whatnot. And this is sort of generic to like all vocals. Like any vocal that you deal with, you're gonna do like EQ on it, and you're gonna do a compressor on it. I'll show you that now. EQ and compressor, like almost always. And then depending on the type of vocal, like if it's a rap vocal, usually we don't do reverb and delay. Remember, reverb is that sort of wall sounding effect. I usually do that only on like singing vocals. If it's like a hook or something where the person is singing, because usually that's more like I don't know, you want it to be like more mystique or more majestic in a way, whatever. Whereas a rap vocal is sort of just in your face and it's there, bang, you know, it's not like in a big hall or whatever. So yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay.
All my followers are leaders.
So he's singing in that part, right?
You give a fuck about them neither. Turning up on my squad though.
And then he starts rapping over there.
I'm on my knees with my eyes closed, praying for long life till I die. Oh.
Okay, so there he's rapping. This is him singing over here. So what for the singing part, like I've done with that one, which is the complete one. I go there and I go pitch correct sample. So this will be pretty tough for you probably, but I'm just showing it for you. So then what you do with this is basically auto tune, but it doesn't have like that auto tune sound. You can't hear that it's auto tuned, like you can see now.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders, leaders, leaders.
See, so that one, that word vowel was,
You lead us,
and it should have been.
lead us.
So I can literally drag around like his vocal record, yeah, and make it like in tune.
All my followers are leaders.
Like I can make it out of tune. And put that over there.
My followers are leaders. Was a leaders.
So anyway, so it's going to be pretty difficult for you to know where the notes actually should be, but I'm just showing it to you so that you know this is something that you can do. If you know what key the project is in that you're working in, then what you can do is you can go there, you can go snap to scale, put that on, this is already on, snap to scale, and then choose the scale, which is the key of the project, yeah, choose that scale, and then whenever you move notes around, it'll automatically snap to notes, only notes that are in the key. So that's useful, right? That helps. So in that sense, you might be able to use it. So that's obviously, then you do it for you listen to the whole thing and you shift it all around so it's on the right, yeah, everything's on the right notes, yeah. And you can't really hear that.
You leaders, leaders, you leaders.
And the more you change it, the more obvious it becomes that it's being pitch corrected. But most of the time, you can't hear at all when you do this. Okay, so there's that. So after you've done that, then you've got this. So let me put this dry.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a people pleaser. A pleaser.
Okay, just compare that one to this one.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a people pleaser. A pleaser.
Okay, you probably can't hear the difference because it's very subtle, but there is a big difference. If you listen to it in the track, you'll definitely hear the one sounds way better, just because it's perfect. It's on pitch perfect the whole time. Just let me, I skip a bit fast through this. So yeah, so with this thing, this is called new tone, by the way, where you do the pitch correction of a vocal. And then you only have these three knobs really to work with. Apart from shifting the words around, you've got these three knobs. The first knob is center, which you can see what it does. It shifts all the notes so that they're perfect on a note that actually exists, right? Because notes are like specific frequencies, right? And sometimes a vocal is like somewhere randomly in between. So that center knob, bam, takes everything to the center. And then the variation, the second knob is the variation knob. So the less variation there is, the more auto-tune it sounds. It's going to sound more auto-tune. Can you see how straight the lines are? It's very unnatural, unrealistic vocal.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a people please.
You still barely can't hear it, but that's basically the more perfect you want, but the less natural, then you go for less variation. More variation, you'll see there's like a little vibratos. You see how the lines, those orange lines indicate the pitch of the vocal. And it's very natural for a person's voice to sort of be like that, you know? Sort of like this, not like that. Although in this case it still sounds pretty natural. But you mostly hear it in the transitions, like in those, because then it jumps all of a sudden, you can hear it's underneath. But then we've got a knob for controlling that as well, which is actually called the transition knob, the last knob. To set how harshly should it jump to the next note. See, like that's a very harsh jump, like bam, straight up. Whereas if it's like say halfway, it's a bit more subtle. You see? So these knobs are all about. I almost always end up having them like that. Sort of like that, like a little variation and a little of that. So then it's a very perfect vocal, but not too much, so that it sounds crazy, like unrealistic. Yeah, but you can mess around with that. And then you can also like even double click vowels and then even change the individual variation of every like thing. So just so you know, you can ramp it out and stuff. I'm just telling you so that I'll tell you, because this is very advanced and you're not necessarily, but now you know and you can always go and mess around. You know, and I think especially if you like record for fun someone's vocals, like that would definitely be cool to like mess around with. Okay, so let's assume we've done that, and then what we've got left is this
All my followers are leaders.
Okay, so he's singing now. So I'm gonna treat this vocal as a singing vocal, as a hook or whatever. Okay. So always the first thing that I do is still recording. Yeah. The first thing is always for me is a compressor. So I use Maximus. Okay. So the vocals obviously going into this channel 18, right? So now I'm adding in my effects. There's the Maximus. Okay. And then very similar to what I showed you with when we did mastering. How we
All my followers are leaders.
yeah.
You lead.
So I'm gonna use Maximus as a multi-band compressor because I'm gonna do the mids and the highs all on their own. I'm ignoring the lows because I'm gonna scoop out the lows with an EQ anyway later, so it's gonna be irrelevant. Okay, so because the vocal doesn't really have those sub-bass frequencies, we never want them really. Yeah, okay.
All my followers are leaders. You leaders. Always been a people pleaser. You pleaser if they treat you.
Okay, so I feel like the average is like around there. So just do, as I said, the vocal isn't very dynamic. By that I mean like it's a constant volume, so it doesn't need that much compression. But it's almost always you need some compression on a vocal, especially on like a sort of commercially type track that we will be doing. Okay, so 11.4. So I've increased the pre-gain by 11.4. Which I can see over there at the top, and then I'm decreasing the post gain by 11.4 to make up, also known as make up gain or the post gain. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, but from okay, yeah, it was quite pretty soon, but you've got it on video, right? So you can go check it out. Okay, so now for the same for the highs, although not really. I don't really compress the highest frequencies unless. Because I usually do a de-esser, which I'm going to do later. Okay, so for now only the mids are compressed. Also know that the mid range is the most prominent range where vocals are. Vocals are most prominently in the mid range of the frequency spectrum. Okay, so then the same for
All my followers are leaders. You leaders. Always been a people pleaser. You pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you. They need you. Don't give a fuck about them neither. You neither. I've been.
okay, here we go. That seems fine. So I'm not even, usually I would do this while listening to the music as well, to get a feel for am I compressing it hard enough or not, whatever. But for now I'm just doing it like generic because it doesn't matter, because whatever your situation is going to be different anyway. So, but just know that if you feel like a vocal is too all over the place in terms of volume, then you'll always need more compression. Like that will give you more control of the vocal, make it more like a solid volume the whole time. But obviously you can overdo that and make it sound unnatural and stuff like that, you know. So okay. So there's the max.
All my followers are.
Very like subtle compression. Okay, so that's first. Some people do EQ first, but I prefer not to. Okay. So now we go with the equalizer. Okay, after the compressor. Okay.
All my
So the first thing we do is we click on the bottom band, make it a high pass.
all my followers are leaders. You leaders.
And we try to see where's the bottom end of his vocal.
All my followers are
It's pretty much
leaders.
over there.
You leaders.
So I just bring this thing over so that slide is just below it.
All my followers are leaders. You leaders. Always been a people please.
So
All my
so
followers
we
are
take away all of
leaders.
that. We don't want that.
All my followers are leaders.
Okay, so yeah, cutting out all those frequencies that actually they shouldn't actually even be there. You know, it's like that. Okay, so then
All
what
my
I do is I do a subtle boost of the high frequencies.
All my followers are leaders. You
Okay.
leaders. Always been.
That really brings out the character and the crispness of the vocal. It's all those high frequencies.
All my followers are leaders. You leaders. Always been a people pleaser.
Yeah, sort of makes your vocal sometimes sound more like high quality. You know? So okay, and now so it's the low cut, slight high boost, and then there's other two ducks that I'm gonna do. So the first one is usually like around here.
All my followers are leaders. You leaders. Always been a people pleaser. You pleaser.
So what I'm doing now is I'm moving this around. I'm down scrolling to make it thinner. Down scroll, and now I'm listening to. Okay, so the thing about vocals is it's a very fine tuning thing. You need to, like everything I've done so far, you probably barely can hear a difference. But it's everything together that makes the whole thing perfect and then makes it really sound cool. Okay, so
All my followers are lead.
that frequency over there is bothering me.
All my followers are leaders.
Okay, I feel like I don't like that. So I'm just gonna do a slight stuck, bang, like that. Okay. So just reducing the volume of that specific frequency just a little bit, okay? And then and it's almost always around there, around that area where it's always a frequency there that's like, bothering me a bit. Okay. But just take that as a guideline, not as a rule. Okay. And now
All my followers.
here around you see that says low mid? Almost always at the low mid there's like a muffling sort of frequency.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a
Okay.
people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you.
There we go. There's the EQ for the vocal. Okay, very quick. Didn't spend a lot of time, but that we're just going through it quick. Okay, so there's that. Now we're doing reverb. Is next. Okay, so I just use Fruity Reverb too. Okay, because we all have it. It's cool. So for the wet signal, not a lot, like 20%. You can see at the top left it says 20%. About there is cool.
All my followers.
And the decay, I'll just have like around here somewhere.
All my followers.
So the wet signal and your decay is like your main two. I don't know if you remember, the wet is the amount of reverb
All my followers are leaders.
and the decay is the length. How long it takes to decay.
All my followers are leaders.
But then there's one more thing.
All my followers are leaders.
If you want that type of effect, like where it's very sort of mystique-y vibes, like you turn up the damp and you turn up the high cutoff.
All my followers are leaders.
You that afterwards. So the reason why you don't have that is because there's a natural high cut on those frequencies. Those frequencies are high frequencies and they're cut off by this knob. So if we turn it up all the way, then we bring it back.
All my followers are leaders. All my followers.
And then same for damp. Damp is also dampens. I don't know why there's two. I'm sure.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a people pleaser.
So for whatever you're going to be doing, like sort of trappy or whatever stuff, it'll probably be cool to have that sort of effect, because it just sounds cool and it sounds like you're in like singing from the universe or something crazy, like in the stars or whatever. It's probably bullshit. Okay. So there's that, and then delay is almost always some delay in the singing vocal, again, it's just Fruity delay too that I use. Very simple. Like I don't know why people want to use fancy stuff for this, because they all do the same thing. Okay. So now for the oh shit, that's the TV. Okay, that's fine. Alright. It should still be recording. Yeah. Okay. That's my camera. Okay. So what I do is, on the feedback type, I put it on ping pong. Okay. Put the input panning all the way to the left. And then the feedback, the time, I put on 4. So I'm looking over there at the top to see it's on 4. Either 4 or 2, depending on the BPM. If the BPM is 70, I'll probably do 2. If the BPM was 140, I'll probably do. So, but you can mess around, listen to it, okay? And then the volume I'll bring down like that.
All my followers are leaders.
Yeah, that little echo there at the end. So what?
All my followers.
Yeah, this delay is a bit too much. The reverb is too.
All my followers are leaders. Your leaders. Always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you. They need you.
Keeps going on. And so what's happening is it's on ping pong, and I've panned it to the left, so it echoes left and right. Okay, so it gives it a stereo presence. Okay, so the vocal's not just there in the middle, it's actually all over the place. So it's like, it makes it more epic, you know? And then what this volume does is
All my followers are leaders.
it sets the volume of the echo, and then this feedback volume over here basically sets how many times should it echo. Yeah, it's basically, it's not really what it does, but it's essentially like, yeah. And again, I almost always end up having something like around there, you know, something around there, and that's sort of, what is that, 30-40% mark, you know. If that's 100% and that's 50, this is probably like 30. Almost always like around there.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been a people pleaser, a pleaser.
Cool. And that's pretty much
All
it.
my followers are leaders, your leaders.
So now you've got a pretty cool sounding effect. So you've got some other sort of niche stuff that you can do to a vocal as well. Like you could put some chorus on it.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders.
That's pretty cool, right? Like, especially if you're doing, you know, but that's very specific. Like, you want to go for a specific sound where there's like a weird effect on the vocal. You won't just do that because, hey, it sounds cool, bam, let's do it. You know.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been the people.
So that's pretty cool. If it's backup vocals, then what I usually do is I make, why is it like this? Okay. If it were backup vocals, I would copy it like that, like I did just now. Okay. Make it unique, and then after I made it unique, I would shift it a little bit, and then pan the one left and pan the other one right. Okay, not 100%, usually like 70% or something. What that will do is make it be like there on the back of vocals, like there on the side, instead of being in the middle. But there's another way of doing that. You could just use stereo enhancer, Fruity stereo enhancer, and just go preset and choose for strings. You know what strings means? String, like a string band, like all the cellos and violins and stuff, right? So if you choose that, so obviously it says for strings, but this is a vocal. But what it does sort of works for the vocal.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been a people pleaser.
So what that does is it gives it stereo width and it puts it on the sides. Actually, no, it doesn't have to.
All my followers are leaders, your lead.
But I would rather do the copy thing. Even maybe copy it more than twice. Maybe have 3 of them and pan them all or 4. Have 4 of them. And then have 2 of them panned left and right, like 80%, and the other 2 left and right, like 60%. And then you'll have this nice sort of choir of backup vocals, like sitting there, whatever. You know, it can be creative. Yeah, so there's that. And then the last thing. The key of this project was, okay, I'm just gonna check here, G major, I think, yeah. So the vocal
All my
picture plan. So if we wanted to have an auto-tune sound, let's say for some other reason we wanted to sound auto-tuned, okay, because sometimes that's part of the aesthetic of certain genres, then we use picture. And you select the key, it's a major key, it's G major. And then there it has the notes that are in key.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been a people pleaser, a pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need you, they need you. Don't give a fuck about them neither, and neither. I've been doing too much.
So especially at the end, you could hear the jumps of auto-tune, yeah? So so that's for the... And we've done that for sure, where we actually like wanted, well, for the rappers, because they like, you know, having auto-tune sound is part of the aesthetic of like certain trap or hip hop genres. So then we would do that. And then, okay, then there's another thing I can show you, which I probably should show you now. Okay, so let's. Okay. We can also use picture for other stuff though, which I'm going to show you now. I'm going to use it for creating artificial harmonies. Okay. So you'll soon see what that is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going insert MIDI out. So okay, I'll explain this to you soon. So on picture I'm going to click harmonize and I'm going to put, see MIDI, it's got a MIDI input port number. So this picture wants to receive MIDI notes to tell it what it should then output. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to receive MIDI notes from this thing. So I'm going to put that port on, let's say 1 and this one on 1. So now they're linked because they're both on 1. Okay. And what I've done is I've copied the notes of the chord, that chord over there, I've copied them, and I'm going to paste them in here, okay? Now I'm going to take those notes, you're going to have the video, so don't worry, I'm going fast then. Okay, I'm taking those notes and I've pasted them below the vocal. Okay, see how I've pasted them below the vocal? They don't have to be below, they can be on top, whatever, but they just need to be in line, like, they could have been like, they're down there or whatever, but they just need to be, because they're going to be triggering the artificial harmonies. Okay, so let's just copy paste, and we should have. Leaders, always been the people. Okay, crazy at the moment, right? But we're going to fix it now. So there's a couple of stuff. So we want it to replace here. First of all, we don't want it to be max volume. We can probably do like half. Okay, and then we can pan the harmonies to the sides.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you. They need you, don't give a fuck.
See, that's pretty cool, right? That's like vocoding almost. So what I've done is I've activated, I've clicked on octaves and I put the formant on. So the formant isn't on.
Leaders, your leaders.
Sometimes it's like chipmunk voices, right? So formant sort of forces everything to be like sort of there in the middle somewhere. You know?
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat.
And you can pan the harmonies because it's now 3. Because we can change what the harmony should be by like just adding a note here.
Leaders, leaders.
See what I mean?
Leaders, your leaders, leaders, your leaders.
But the harmonies obviously need to match the music. So obviously, if you just take the chords of that you already have, it'll match, right? So there we go.
Leaders, your leaders, always been the people.
Okay, not the most interesting chords in the world though for a song, but yeah, what can you do? Switch it up.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you. They need you, don't give a fuck about them neither. And neither, I've been doing too much features. Your features.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser.
Oh, and you want, yeah, we want to have it on mix.
Leaders, your leaders, always.
So we still have the original vocal going properly.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser.
See if I have it on a place.
Leaders, your leaders.
The original vocal's not even there. It's like.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they treat you like they don't need you. They need you, don't give a fuck about them neither. And neither, I've been doing too much features. Your features, everybody wants a piece of me, cause I give them what they need to. You be bigger than me, but they'll never be, cause I'm Scotty G, ask your girl about me.
See, so that's pretty cool, that's a pretty nice effect. Oh right,
Leaders.
and we can pan the vocals. At the moment they're all on the right. You see I've got them all on the right, so I'll usually do it like mix them up like that.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser. A pleaser if they.
I like things to be symmetrical.
Leaders.
So I have one on the right, I have one on the left, one on the right, one in the middle. Because I can't have them there, then I have 2 on the left and 1 on the right. That's not symmetrical. Like I'm OCD like that.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser, a pleaser.
Right, so that's vocals. And then you can also mess with vocals if you double click there with like time stretch and stuff. So if we just put the mode on speech because it is counts as speech. You can drop the pitch by an octave.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser.
Okay, you can do stuff like that. The pitch up.
Leaders, your leaders, always been a people pleaser.
A lot of the like sort of EDM stuff they do that. Will have like I'm thinking of David Guetta has a song like it's called Bad, I think.
Yeah.
Why does it feel so good to be bad? And it's sort of chipmunk voice singing it. Yeah, so he obviously did that, right? Yeah, make it.
Your leaders, always been a people pleaser, a pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need.
You can make it faster.
You can make it slower, but still
Yeah.
squeaky.
Yeah, make it slow and tune it up.
Leaders, always been a people pleaser, a pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need you.
Yeah, make it.
Leaders, always been a people pleaser, a pleaser.
Make it super slow. Oh crap, is that too much?
I'm a follower to leaders.
Yeah, okay, that's very disturbing. Let's not do that intensely.
Leaders, always been a people pleaser.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like a different twist.
That's, dude, totally. So maybe you've got like a guy with like a deep, where he did like a deep vocal, and then you do the pitch up.
Yeah,
So it's a chipmunk voice, but it's not too much.
exactly.
Or vice versa. You've got a very nice female vocal that was pretty high, but then you pitch it down, and you've got that. That's what they do, and you hear that all the
It's
time.
a song that I wanna make a house remix of.
Yeah.
It's a really squeaky voice.
Okay. Yeah. So then you just go pitch and you go take it down.
Pleaser, if they
Yeah.
always been a people pleaser, a pleaser. If
Yeah, so that's pretty disturbing. Yeah. So that's cool. Okay, and another thing, I usually don't normalize my vocals like that. Okay. And the reason for that is if I'm doing multiple recordings, okay, let's say I'm recording a person's vocal, but they need to do more than one take, right? And let's say I take every one of those takes and I normalize them. The issue that I have with that is that each one of those recordings are going to have a different peaking point, right? And when you normalize something, it's that peaking point that determines how intensely it gets a volume increase. So I don't want to be normalizing a bunch of different recordings and then their volumes are going to be increased by different amounts, right? So, and then they're going to go with different amount of input gain into the compressor, and I don't want that. I'd rather, keep them soft like this, and at least let them all be consistent, going to the same, because then the one's actually going to be in general louder than the other, and the system is. So yeah, that's why I don't normalize. And yeah, reversing vocals are also cool. Like you can usually pull out. Sounds like yeah. Sounds like Dutch or something, eh? Or like Netherlands or something. That's really okay. So that was interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the vocals. So if this was a rap vocal, I would not have the reverb and I would not have the delay, most likely. And I probably wouldn't have done anything with picture unless it was auto-tune stuff. Yeah. So then
Give them what they need to. You be bigger than me, but they'll never be. Cause give them what.
okay, yeah. That's pretty much it. And then all what's left is to mix it with music. So I mean, it's just you can just do that. So
All my followers are leaders. Leaders. Always been the people pleaser.
okay, so in general it's way too soft. So I'm just gonna push up.
Use his voice to make it sound
on the background.
All my followers are leaders, your leaders. Always been a people pleaser. You please.
That. No. That's actually from the faded. From. Yeah. You have it like that.
You pleaser. If they treat you like they don't need you, you need you. Don't give a fuck about them neither. You neither. I've been doing too much features. Your features. Everybody wants a piece of me, 'cause I give them what they need to. You be bigger than me, but they'll never be, 'cause I'm Scotty G. Ask your girl about me. Turning up on my squad though.
No, but that reverb is too much, eh? Like it's all over the place. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I did use that type of reverb recently though, where I thought it sounded pretty cool on a track that I did with for Haiku. Yeah, it's actually like a trap song as well. So it's like, yeah, yeah. It is on YouTube, yeah, and on our SoundCloud.
Ek het die pad verloor en ek weet ek doen dit oor en oor, maar ek sal hom weer loop.
So this vocal has that reverb, so I'm just gonna skip through it.
Weer en weg is
Especially this part has, you can't hear it that much because there's a lot else going on. That's also like a lot of high frequencies, but that's part of what's going on.
jy sonder spoor met geen geluid in 'n wêreld waarin dink konstant bly. Het jy
Whenever it's like a S or something, you can it just goes out there, and that sounds pretty cool, I think.
verdwyn? Hoe jy dink in jou beleid, kan jy ook net so ver kry in 'n wêreld waarin dink konstant bly. Het jy verdwyn? Het jy verdwyn?
Yeah, so that was our trap song. It's doing pretty well, people are liking it. Yeah. So, vocals, vocals. Yeah, vocals are very tough though. They were like one of the things that I learned at a later stage.
I just want
And a lot of practice. Yeah.
that I can take my credit,
Yeah.
tune it, and then make a song. Not really do a recording.
Oh,
tune it
okay.
myself.
Okay, cool. Okay, well that's cool, but
That's a bit too
no, bro, you can do that. Like, okay, so when you get a vocal from like online or something, they most probably are they've already been compressed in EQ and whatever. So, but you still you'll still have to EQ them to match whatever you're doing with them. Most likely. Maybe also even compress them maybe, depending on what you're doing. So you wanna, but there's not really much in terms of stretching them or making them fit.
Yeah, that's
Okay, with the time. Okay. Okay, so here's this Alan Walker faded.
You were the shadow to my light.
Okay, so what would you want to make a house song with this? Okay. Okay. I don't do this that often though, actually, but let's see. Okay.
You were the
Okay.
you were the shadow.
Okay, so what you can do is if you click there and you have stretch on. Okay, let's just cut this out because it's too much. Now we can.
You were the shadow. You were the shadow.
So it's gonna change pitch. But then you can drop the pitch using the pitch thing.
Were the shadow to my light, did you feel us?
Okay. I'm not actually sure what the best way is of doing this. So let's middle click that.
You were the shadow.
So what I would usually do is, and I don't think this is the best way, but yeah, I'm just gonna show you regardless. Okay, let's just get a kick drum. Where is my stuff? Drums. Okay. So I'm just gonna do this. Put some kicks there and let's see.
You were the. You were.
Okay,
You were the shadow to my light.
okay, so it's way too slow, right? So I'm taking this time stretching knob to the left. Let's make it faster.
You were the shadow. You were the shadow to my light.
Still too slow. Take it more to the left.
You were the shadow. You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away.
Sounds better, but it's still too slow. So this is one way, but it's pretty painful and
You were the shadow. You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star.
okay, now it's too fast.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim it. You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of.
So it's getting too fast there, so you know that it's too fast.
When you make remixes or something, you have to do this over.
I usually remix them in the tempo that they are.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight.
Okay, so that's one way, but it takes long to eventually get it perfect, right? So let's just undo that. I think there's another way where you go tick tempo, select that. The tempo for the sample has been detected as 90. Okay. Would you like to set the product tempo to this value? Just yes.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us?
And I think if we now
You were the shadow to my.
90.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us?
I'm not sure how you increase the tempo then of the project that it will make the vocal match as well. But I'm pretty sure there is a way.
Were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade.
Let's see if I can Google FL Studio how to vocals change tempo with projects. I don't think you can actually. Well, I think you can, but ooh, fit to tempo. Okay, so we can put it to 128, and if we go there and we say fit to tempo, let's do that. Let's see what it does.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us?
There we go.
Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight. Wanna see us alive. Where are you now?
I'm already hearing like should be.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight. Wanna see us alive. Where are you now? Where are you now?
And then like toss in like a bass line or something. Where's citrus? Just quickly get some like deep house bass. Now you can literally go crazy because it's a house track and we don't give a shit about anything.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight. Wanna see us alive. Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now?
So yeah, super generic, right? Like didn't even think about it and the notes didn't work, but that isn't that house music. So yeah, okay, so do you remember how I did that? Probably not. Okay, it's on video though, but I'm just gonna go over it. So from scratch,
You were the shadow.
there's a slow vocal, right? So I double click it and I go detect tempo, and then I choose 75 to 150 because all our music that we're making is in that range, I think, almost always, yeah. So then it goes, yeah. So then it tells us 90 whatever, 90, so we say yes. Now our project has been made to that, but now we change our project to what we want it to be. Let's say 128, because that's where house is, or 125 or whatever. So after we've done that, you just click there and say fit to tempo. So fit it to the tempo of the project, and then 75, and stretching it.
You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight. Wanna see us alive. Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now? You were the shadow to my light. Did you feel us? Another star, you fade away. Afraid our aim is out of sight. Wanna see us alive. Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now?
Yeah, so anyway, you know, go crazy, put in the drums, and there you go. Bob to your uncle. Okay, recording done.